Last time we spoke, we went over a lot of the recent increase in aggression of the Chinese Communist Party against the Philippines in the South China Sea, attacking Filipino boats with axes and knives. Since then, supposedly they've signed some kind of agreement. The details are still pretty sparse, but that they say will de escalate the tensions. What do you know about this agreement? The CCP is known for honoring its agreements. So what's going to come of this?
Well, okay, so without making a long diatribe of this, the short answer is that it looks like there's a provisional agreement that was made. There's a disagreement amongst the two sides as to the details of that agreement, and the Philippines is working responsibly to try to de-escalate this whole conflict. But I think it's important to appreciate the larger issues that are here that kind of frame these negotiations. In the past, what's happened is that the Chinese negotiators have come to the Department of Foreign Affairs in Manila, and they basically read out their talking points and either get up and leave, or they sit there stone faced, and there's no real exchange back and forth. And this time it was real different. And the context of this, the larger picture is that number one, as painful as this is, we have to understand that essentially the U.S. has lost its ability to provide deterrency or as act as a deterrent force in the Indo-Pacific region. And we see this with moves around the Senkakus and the Taiwan situation, as well as in the South China Sea. So, the the, the Philippines understands this. The second thing is that while we typically look at the South China Sea issue as China defending its sovereignty and moving aggressively, that kind of looks like a beginnings of some type of military push against the Philippines. I think it's important to remember that uh, a lot of what China is doing, they are playing to the home audience. It's a domestic play. And so that comes back, Chris, to your question here is um, what's really going on? And uh, the deputy or the assistant national security advisor, Malaya, has just had a press conference yesterday in which he was explaining they know that the Chinese are spinning this agreement, playing to the home audience. Those are not the terms that the Philippines agreed to. And what the Chinese are saying is here's the deal: the Philippines has agreed that they would tow this ship and not leave any personnel or facilities behind when they're through. We will permit, upon advance warning, humanitarian resupply. And they have agreed, this is the Chinese version, that there will be no construction materials.
And this is the Sierra Madre, the ship the Filipinos ran aground.
Correct. And so the Philippines is saying, we didn't agree to that. That isn't the deal. But there is some kind of agreement that's being kept quiet to see if they can make it work. And I think that there's some other factors that are playing into this, Chris. This transparency initiative has really caused enormous bleeding on the part of China, and they're trying to stop this bleeding by getting something in place because the media has just been beating up the PRC something terrible. And there's also, I think, some concern on the Chinese part. If they do another aggressive move, they might just be humiliated like they were up in the Himalayas with the uh, what is it, the Galwan Valley exercise, because they have been given a warning by General Bronner that if you folks do this again, we're going to meet your aggression uh, with our own. And I think that China just does not want to take any more humiliation from the Philippines. So that's their motivation to get in and cut a deal.
You said that the deal that the Chinese side was trying to frame the deal in a way that the Philippines is like, "Wait a minute, that's not what we said." Is this an attempt to make like kind of try to embarrass the Philippines into agreeing that okay, if they come out first and say the deal was things like no construction materials, and then the Philippines does that they can kind of make that seem like the Philippines did something wrong, violated the deal, etc.
Shelley, you are right on the money there. Um, they're playing to the home audience, but also this is exactly like that so-called gentleman's agreement arrangement that we saw previously. That China comes out with their version of it, and this, Shelley, what you've hit on is a concept called cognitive anchoring. That is the first one that gets the story out, anchors the concept or in people's minds, and it's very difficult to move that once they come out first. And so yes, this is an opportunity for China. This is what they're doing is they're coming out first and saying these are the points of the deal. And in the future, should the Philippines come out and say publicly, now wait a second, we didn't agree to that, then that puts China in the position so they can call the Philippines uh, or label them as reneging on the deal. So you're absolutely right.
So how do you prevent that, or like is there anything the Philippines can do about that now that China has done this?
Well, here's the challenge. Um, the Philippine negotiating team agreed that they would keep the details out of the public. And you all know from your experience that China is not real good about keeping the heart of the deal or the substance of the deal. So the Philippines is going to stick by their bargain at least for a while. And I think there are sufficient statements being made by the national uh, assistant national security advisor and the National Security Council and others that come on, you know that we would not agree to these types of provisions. And I think that that's going to have to suffice for now. But it is a negotiating advantage that China has pulled, no question about it.
So, what is really in the deal?
Well, Matt, I wasn't in the room, and the actual deal has been kept from the public, is being kept from the public for the time being. Um, I suspect that you know that there's an agreement that they're going to allow resupply without hassle, and that there's some type of understanding that maybe large amounts of construction materials will not be sent out there. I don't know.
You said China was playing for the domestic audience. Do you think they're also playing to the Philippine audience? Because as I understand it, the attack on the Filipino ships was not well received in the Philippines. Does this make people in the Philippines think, "Oh, our government is weak. Our government is caving to the CCP. They're going to remove the Sierra Madre"? Is China sending this message to the Filipino people?
Yes, they they are working this political crack that we have discussed previously between the Marcos side of the government and the former President Duterte and his daughter, the Vice President Sarah Duterte's um, opposition to Marcos. And what China is doing is trying to show, hey, we maybe we made a mistake, we went a little overboard, so we're willing to cut a deal. So uh, cut us some slack and come back over to our side.